In the land of Moab, on the eastern side of the Jordan River, the people of Israel had come to the end of their long journey through the wilderness. They had been wandering for 40 years. And now they stood on the threshold of the promised land, the land that God had promised to their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But there was one man who would not enter the land with them. Their leader and prophet, Moses. Moses had been a faithful servant of God and a wise leader of the Israelites for many years. He had led them out of slavery in Egypt, through the trials and tribulations of the desert, and now he was about to pass on his leadership to the next generation. God had told Moses that he would not be allowed to enter the promised land because of an incident that had occurred earlier in their journey. When the people were thirsty and grumbled against Moses, God had instructed him to speak to a rock, and water would flow from it. Instead, Moses struck the rock in anger, and for this disobedience, he would not be allowed to enter the land. However, God assured Moses that he would be able to see the land from a distance. Moses knew that his time on earth was drawing to a close, and he wanted to ensure that the people of Israel were prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. So he called together all the leaders and elders of the people to give them a final address. In his speech, Moses recounted the history of the Israelites, from their time in Egypt to their journey through the wilderness. He reminded them of God's faithfulness and the importance of following his commandments. Moses stressed the significance of loving and obeying God with all their hearts, for this was the key to their success in the land they were about to possess. Moses also warned the people of the consequences of turning away from God and worshiping other gods. He knew that in the land of Canaan, they would encounter many foreign nations with different customs and religions. He urged them to remain faithful to the one true God and not to compromise their beliefs. As Moses spoke, he knew that his time was running out. He said to the people, "I am now 120 years old and can no longer lead you. But God will raise up another leader to guide you into the promised land. Listen to him and follow his instructions as you have followed mine." Moses then recited a song that he had composed, which would serve as a witness against the Israelites if they turned away from God in the future. The song emphasized God's faithfulness and warned of the consequences of forsaking him. After his speech, Moses climbed Mount Nebo, which overlooked the land of Canaan. God showed him the entire land, from the northern region of Gilead to the southern area of Zor. Moses saw the Jordan River, the Dead Sea, and the fertile plains that stretched before him. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, just as God had promised. Moses gazed at the land with a heavy heart, knowing that he would never enter it. He had fulfilled his role as the leader of the Israelites, and now it was time for a new chapter in their history. Moses eventually passed away on that mountain, in the land of Moab, just as God had told him. The Bible tells us that God himself buried Moses in a valley in the land of Moab. But no one knows the exact location of his grave. The Israelites mourned for Moses for 30 days, and then Joshua, Moses' assistant, took up the mantle of leadership. Joshua was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him, and the people of Israel obeyed him just as they had obeyed Moses. With Joshua as their leader, they crossed the Jordan River and began the conquest of the promised land. Moses' legacy lived on in the hearts of the Israelites, and his story continued to inspire generations to come. The book of Deuteronomy, which contains his final speeches and the law given to Israel, served as a guide for the people as they settled in their new homeland. The death of Moses marked the end of an era, but it was also the beginning of a new chapter in the history of God's chosen people. Though he did not enter the promised land himself, Moses had led the Israelites to the doorstep of their inheritance, and his faith and obedience had paved the way for their future. Moses' story is one of faith, leadership, and unwavering commitment to God's plan. His example reminds us of the importance of trusting in God's promises and following his guidance, even when we may not fully understand his ways. Moses may not have seen the promised land with his own eyes, but his legacy and the legacy of the Israelites would endure for generations to come. Moses' final messages before his death. Moses delivered a series of messages to the Israelites, encapsulating their history and God's laws. These messages are recorded in the book of Deuteronomy, which serves as a farewell address to the people he had led for so long. Moses reiterated the importance of obeying God's commandments, reminding the Israelites of their covenant with the Lord. He urged them to love the Lord with all their heart, soul, and strength. He also warned them of the consequences of disobedience, emphasizing the need for faithful adherence to God's laws. Moses' blessing. Moses continued to bless the 12 tribes of Israel, speaking prophetically about their destinies. His words were not only a blessing but also a recognition of the unique roles each tribe would play in the life of the nation. The people listened with reverence as they received these blessings, acknowledging the profound connection between their leader and their God. The death of Moses. As Moses approached the end of his life, he climbed Mount Nebo, overlooking the Promised Land. It was from this vantage point that he beheld the beauty of the land flowing with milk and honey, the land he had longed to enter but would never set foot upon. The Bible describes this moment in Deuteronomy chapter 34 verses 4 to 5, "And the Lord said to him, This is the land of which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to your offspring. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there." Moses died there on Mount Nebo, at the age of 120. But the Bible tells us that his vigor had not waned, and his eyesight remained strong. His death was a moment of deep sorrow for the Israelites, who mourned him for 30 days. The people knew that they had lost a unique leader and prophet, who had brought them out of bondage, guided them through the wilderness, and delivered God's laws. The legacy of Moses. Moses' legacy endured long after his death. He had given the Israelites the foundation of their faith and identity. His life was a testimony to God's faithfulness and a model of humble obedience. The books of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, are attributed to him and contain the core of Jewish law and teaching. Moses had demonstrated that leadership was not about power or personal glory but about service, obedience to God, and love for. The mystery surrounding the fate of Moses' body after his death has intrigued theologians, scholars, and believers for centuries. Within the biblical narrative, the book of Deuteronomy provides the primary account of Moses' passing. However, it intriguingly omits explicit details about the final resting place of his body, leading to various interpretations and speculations within religious discourse. Moses, the central figure in Jewish history and a significant prophet in Christianity and Islam, played an instrumental role in leading the Israelites out of Egypt and guiding them toward the Promised Land. His life, marked by divine encounters, miraculous events, and the delivery of the law, holds immense significance in religious traditions. According to the Bible, Moses spent 40 years leading the Israelites through the wilderness after they escaped from Egypt. In the closing chapters of Deuteronomy, the narrative reaches its climax as Moses, at the age of 120, ascends Mount Nebo. From this vantage point, God shows him the promised land that the Israelites would inherit but informs Moses that he will not enter it. Deuteronomy chapter 34 verses 5 to 6, NIV, states, "And Moses the servant of the Lord died there in Moab. As the Lord had said, he buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day no one knows where his grave is." This passage leaves a profound enigma as it suggests that God himself buried Moses, concealing the location of his grave. The absence of details regarding Moses' burial place has sparked numerous interpretations, legends, and discussions. The biblical silence regarding Moses' grave serves multiple purposes. It underscores the divine agency in Moses' life and death, highlighting God's unique relationship with him. Furthermore, this mystery preserves the focus on Moses' legacy and teachings rather than on the physicality of his remains. Jewish tradition and later writings, such as the apocryphal Book of Jubilees and Midrashic literature, have offered diverse perspectives on Moses' fate. Some suggest that angels buried Moses, while others propose that his body ascended to heaven. These accounts, however, are not part of the canonical biblical text and should be understood as interpretations or embellishments rather than authoritative accounts. The mysterious absence of Moses' gravesite has prompted reflection and spiritual lessons in religious communities. Some interpret it as a deliberate act to prevent his burial site from becoming a place of worship, ensuring the focus remains on God alone. Additionally, the secrecy surrounding Moses' burial reinforces the belief in his unparalleled significance and the divine nature of his mission. The ambiguity surrounding Moses' burial also serves as a reminder of the transient nature of earthly life and the significance of one's spiritual legacy over physical remains. It encourages believers to contemplate the broader implications of mortality and the enduring impact of faith, leadership, and obedience to God's commands. Furthermore, the absence of specific details about Moses' burial sparks curiosity and fuels ongoing discussions, emphasizing the importance of seeking deeper spiritual meanings within the text rather than settling for surface-level interpretations. Ultimately, the biblical silence regarding the fate of Moses' body underscores the theological and symbolic dimensions of his life and death. It invites contemplation on themes of faith, divine providence, the afterlife, and the eternal impact of a life dedicated to serving God and leading others toward righteousness. This enduring mystery continues to inspire reverence for Moses' legacy and serves as a catalyst for spiritual reflection within various religious traditions. In the Bible, there is no explicit account of what happened to the body of Moses after his death. The book of Deuteronomy describes Moses climbing Mount Nebo, where God showed him the promised land before his death. In Deuteronomy chapter 34 verses 5-6, Niv, it is written, "And Moses the servant of the Lord died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, but to this day no one knows where his grave is." The text indicates that God himself buried Moses in an undisclosed location, and the specific whereabouts of his grave were not revealed. Jewish tradition, found in extra-biblical texts like the apocryphal Book of Jubilees and some rabbinic writings, contains various interpretations and legends regarding what happened to Moses' body. However, these accounts are not part of the canonical biblical text. The mystery surrounding the burial of Moses has led to speculation and curiosity throughout history, but within the Bible, the focus is primarily on his life, leadership, and the legacy he left behind rather than the specifics of what happened to his body after his passing. This passage, while affirming the death and burial of Moses, deliberately veils the specific location of his grave, attributing the act of burial to God himself. The lack of clarity regarding Moses' burial place has elicited extensive contemplation, speculation, and historical inquiry. Ancient Jewish sources and later rabbinic writings grapple with this biblical silence concerning Moses' burial. Some traditions suggest that the archangel Michael buried Moses, while others speculate that Moses' body ascended to heaven or was concealed to prevent it from becoming an object of idolatry or veneration. The mystery surrounding Moses' burial has extended beyond religious discussions and into historical exploration. Various theories have been posited, with some historians and researchers attempting to identify potential locations where Moses might have been buried based on geographical and archaeological evidence. However, these endeavors remain speculative and lack conclusive evidence due to the scarcity of historical records and the absence of verifiable information within biblical texts. The absence of explicit details about Moses' burial has prompted diverse interpretations and spiritual reflections within religious communities. Some view this mystery as emblematic of the divine mystery and the limitations of human understanding in grappling with matters of faith and the divine. Moreover, the absence of a known gravesite accentuates the enduring impact of Moses' teachings and leadership. It emphasizes the importance of focusing on his legacy and the moral and spiritual lessons derived from his life rather than fixating on the physical aspects of his death and burial. The mystery surrounding Moses' burial continues to be a subject of fascination, spiritual contemplation, and scholarly inquiry. It serves as a testament to the profound impact of Moses' life and teachings while inviting believers to delve deeper into the spiritual significance of his legacy, faith, and obedience to God. Despite the lack of concrete historical details, the mystery surrounding Moses' body persists as a source of intrigue, inspiration, and reverence within religious traditions and historical study. Please subscribe my YouTube channel. I hope you like this video. Thank you.